Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Shaun Terry. I head up the mobile development for Barclays. And this afternoon, I'm going to talk to you about why being disruptive can be good. A very kind person who worked for me drew me in a way that makes me look a lot younger on the TV than I do in real life, so apologies for that. A little bit of background about Barclays as an organisation. We're about a 300-year-old bank, but when it comes to mobile, we are very new. We are the new kids on the block there. We've only existed for 18 months in mobile. Literally 5 or 6 of us got together. We were asked to start a team. And for a bank that's that old, to act like a startup the way we did was quite exciting for us. We've launched a number of products. And one of the reasons why I was really pleased to talk today is we actually have a mobile development team in Vilnius, in our Barclays office, the tower across the river. And strategically for us, mobile is a very important channel. We've already seen from our customers that they really like it. And for this country, it's really important for us because we're going to expand our mobile team here. So it's a very exciting time for us, very timely that we could do this presentation today, and very much looking forward to doing more work like this, particularly in this part of the world. So a bit about Barclays. We have a few firsts to our name. We had the first female bank manager in the UK, which was quite an achievement for us. We had the first ATM back in the 60s, around about 65, when as you remember, a year later, we won the World Cup for the first and only time. So most people remember that ATM date. We had the first credit card. Pretty much the norm now, credit cards in our lives. And the other first is that we launch Barclays Ping It. So that's the TV advert that we use for Barclays Ping It. We also, as part of the Premier League, we did quite a lot of advertising around the ground, so Ping It appeared on quite a lot of the advertising hoardings. And that was quite interesting. When you watched the reruns, we have a program called Match of the Day where all the football experts get together and they analyse the games in lots of detail. And it was funny that when we were doing our advertising campaign, they started talking about the players, and he said, why didn't he just ping it across, and why didn't he just ping it over to him? So it was quite nice for us that we had a product that was starting to be used in our everyday language. But interestingly, we did something different. We launched Ping It because we wanted to be disruptive. We wanted to do something different that the other banks weren't doing. So at the time, if you looked at the other organizations who we face off to, so Lloyds, NatWest, the other core banks, they weren't going down the Ping It route. What they were offering their customers was just mobile banking on a phone. So the very services that you could access through the internet, they were offering them on their phones. Now, traditionally, that's the sort of thing we would have done. What tends to happen is one bank comes up with an idea and all the other banks follow. And they might be a month behind, they might be a year behind. We didn't want to follow the pack this time. We wanted to do something different because we wanted to be disruptive. So why do we want to be disruptive? In organizations, if you follow the pack, you will always end up being the group that are seen to follow the pack. And in our market, the payments market is a $1 trillion market. It's a huge market for anyone to get involved with. And we really felt that it was time to do something a bit challenging. And we took inspiration from other organizations who'd done similar things. So Facebook. So, we'd listened to Steve talking about the past and his life. I remember as a kid growing up, when you went on holiday, you took the photographs of your holiday on a camera. I know it sounds really old-fashioned, but we really did. And then you came back from your holiday and you had your photographs developed. And there was quite an excitement because it used to take maybe 3 or 4 days for your photographs to come back. And then you'd meet with all your friends and you'd have that nice moment where you socialized with your friends 3 or 4 days after your holiday and you remembered all those nice things that happened on the holiday. And some of the photographs weren't very good and it was a bit disappointing, but it was kind of nice to reminisce about your holiday after the event. But with Facebook, we don't do that anymore. Your friends are on holiday with you now. If you do something on your holiday, you share that with your friends immediately wherever they are in the world. And that's changed the way we socialize. We don't meet up after the holiday for a drink or a bite to eat. We're interacting with our friends even whilst we're on holiday. We're sharing our lives moments with our friends whilst they're actually happening. If I was on Facebook now, somebody would probably be taking my picture and sharing it. And they've revolutionized the way we socialize. They've been disruptive. There's no doubt about it. Facebook has disrupted the way we socialize as people. And the best part of 1 billion people are doing it. So that's a massive, massive change that they've achieved over those years. Another example is Apple. Again, looking back, I remember the old days we used to have things called cassettes. So I'm looking around the room, most of you probably don't remember. You know, cassettes were things you plugged into a very big device and you listened to them in your lounge. The thought of taking your music with you was ridiculous, unless you wanted to carry. And there used to be, you know, you used to see the pictures of the guys walking down the street with the really big speakers on their shoulders. That was mobile music. But then Sony came out with something called the Sony Walkman. And I don't know if you noticed, they're running a series of TV adverts at the moment, Sony's new Android phone that they've just released. And they show a couple of people roller skating beautifully down the kind of Californian promenade, and they've got a Sony Walkman, and everyone's stopping and looking, because it really was, you know, as an iconic product, the Sony Walkman revolutionized the way we listen to music. And then when cassettes fell away, Sony had the Discman. And again, it was a really cool device. Everybody wanted a Sony Walkman or a Sony Discman. They were the iconic device to listen to your music while you were moving. So how many people here have got a Sony MP3 player? Just show of hands. 3, 4. So Sony had the world at their feet. They had the whole music business. They had the whole mobile listening business at their feet and at their mercy. And they lost the whole lot. And the reason was Apple came along. And Apple decided to be disruptive. So Apple launched an MP3 player. And in their usual way, it was a beautiful device. You know, the UI, everything Apple do is a glorious UI. So they launched a very nice product. But that didn't change the way people listen to music, because you still went to the shop and you still had to buy your CD and you still had to download your music onto the device. So what they thought was, how can we go to the next step? What about a music management system? How can we make it easier for our customers to manage their music and to load it onto their MP3 player? So they came with iTunes. And it's a bit kind of Marmite. Some people love iTunes, some people hate it. But it made it easier for people to get the music off the CD and onto their MP3 player. But everyone else was doing that. There were other MP3 players out there you could buy that allowed you to do very similar things. It's what Apple did next that really took everyone else by surprise. They went to the music publishing houses, they went to the agents of the bands, and they went to the bands themselves and said, why don't we buy the music off you and send it straight to our customers? And that's what they did. They were negotiating with people like U2's management and the Rolling Stones management, and they knew if they got the big bands to sign up, all the small bands would follow. So what you had was the start of this almost revolution in music. Walk down a high street now, you don't see anybody selling CDs anymore. You don't see music in the shops anymore. How many people here use iTunes to download? Good chunk. I do, you know, a number of presentations to kids. If it's a school presentation, they tend to be a little bit wary of the next question, and that is, how many people download music from other sources that perhaps you shouldn't download from? Yeah, you usually get a lot more shows of hands. Well, Apple have done about 5 billion downloads. So let's assume Apple are about a third of the business, 5 billion downloads. Let's assume there's other legal organizations that are doing downloads, another 5 billion. And let's assume the ones that we shouldn't really talk about are another 5 to 10 billion. You're pushing 20 billion downloads at about £1 a go. 20 billion pounds worth of business moved from the high street to the mobile phones, the iTunes, and the equivalents. It's no wonder all those shops went out of business, because Apple came along and totally disrupted what they did, very bravely. Amazon's another good case. So Amazon came along, a lot of people thought they were going to be a retailer and sell books. Actually, selling books was never really their plan. They chose books because they don't go off. You know, a book can be held in a warehouse, and it's quite safe if you don't manage to sell them. And what Amazon wanted to do was this concept of people ordering goods online and then shipping them to their homes. And to start with, it kind of worked. You know, if you got the goods within a week, you were happy, and if the goods weren't smashed to bits by the post service, you were even happier. But it was an experiment, and things went wrong, and it wasn't perfect. But in the end, they started to get people bought into this idea of, I don't really need to go to the shops. I could actually buy my goods on the internet. And I remember when it even started taking off. You know, I've got kids, and it used to be great, because my kids would come to me and they'd say, you know, Dad, there's a pair of shoes I want to buy online, and can I have your credit card, please, to pay for them? And I'd say, no. So I had the ultimate parental control over Amazon. However good they were with their service, there were still people like me who could stop their business. But then Amazon weren't satisfied with that. They were always analyzing what they could do better. And they came up with this one-click shop. And in a moment of madness, I saved my address and my card details on one-click shop. Now all I get is a knock at the door and somebody hands me a pair of shoes for my kids. They've thought of everything. They've grown, they've evolved. And the other really interesting thing, if you look at Amazon now, is they don't actually retail themselves. They've almost stepped out of the retailer business, and they're what we call the layer. They've got the online shopping layer, and underneath that, they have all the other stores. What they've got is a very good logistics system. They've got a very good tracking system. They've got a very good feedback system, and they've got a very, very good way of you paying for your goods and not having to key your addressing. So they've owned that layer, and they've changed the way people shop. You know, I look at myself, I look at my friends, I look at my children. We don't buy in the high street anymore. We browse in the high street. And we browse in the high street, and then we go home and we buy online through companies like Amazon. And even the stores are now saying, we haven't got it in stock, go and have a look at our website. The stores don't even run around out the back and run through huge warehouses and try and find the stuff. So Amazon have been massively disruptive. They've changed the way we shop, and we probably won't ever go back. And it was that inspiration that made Barclays think, well, why can't we be disruptive in that $1 trillion payments market? Why can't we change the way people transact their cash? If you've had a meal with somebody, why draw the money out of the ATM? Why carry that cash? Instead of handing the cash over to them, why don't you just get your phone, call up their mobile number, and send them the cash through their mobile number? That's pretty much what Ping It does. It's that simple. It's as quick as sending a text. So that was our motivation for going into a payment system as opposed to a traditional online banking system. So let's see how we've got on so far. In terms of downloads, we've had 1.5 million downloads of Ping It, which for a payment app is pretty amazing in the UK. When we first launched, there was no advertising. It was just a little bit of a viral effect kicked in, and people started to use it. Predominantly Barclays customers. You know, if I'm really honest, 85% of the customers that use Ping It are Barclays customers. There's still something in the UK about other bank customers using another bank. That's something cultural we've got to get over. But 1.5 million downloads, for anybody, if that was your product as a startup, you'd be pretty happy with that. So what did the press say? Amazingly, when we launched it, there was a huge wave of press reaction in the UK. Our CEO was on TV, on the main news channels, being interviewed. And the style of the interviews was very much, you know, Barclays is changing the way we use our cash. Barclays is changing what we have in our wallet. So we were starting to create a little bit of disruption in the UK. And it was a great reaction for us because it kind of went viral from a news point of view. And it was always our dream that we do that. But it was amazing the way the press got onto it. And this was also at a time when, for a number of reasons I won't go into, we weren't necessarily the most popular organization in the world. We've had a few issues, let's be honest. So it was quite exciting that suddenly all the press were very positive about us as an organization and what we were trying to achieve. Here's what a few of our customers said. Now, one of the great things about feedback on the various app stores is some people are quite honest. And I think the person who said, "This is the app I've been waiting for all my life," maybe needs to get out a little bit more. But that is a genuine quote from one of our customers. So the great thing was, when we launched it, we did get that instant feedback. And it was surprising how many people embraced this idea of being able to pay cash, pay their friends through their phone, rather than having to go down to the bank. But I think this one was the one that most of us remember. The quote, I don't know if you can read that. How many of you remember this? Now, we're quite a conservative bank. So when people start writing things like that about our products on the internet and on Twitter and on our app store, it was quite an interesting moment for us. The other interesting thing was how the industry responded. So we won quite a few awards last year, and Apple themselves voted us one of the top 10 most disruptive apps of the year, which was quite an accolade, and we were very proud of that. But we were also quite disruptive within the payments industry as well, because in the UK there was a scheme to launch a UK-wide mobile payments initiative. And we actually sat on the council as a contributor to that. And the day before they were going to make a press release announcing this new scheme, we announced our scheme. So our CEO at the time, who was the chair of that forum, found himself in quite an embarrassing position because he'd kept this from them. And again, in the terms of being disruptive, that was quite a nice touch for somebody in our organization to be able to do something unusual in front of a payments council, an industry that typically weren't expecting that sort of thing. Sort of things people do with Ping It. So you can pay for tickets. It's kind of a sharing thing. You know, your friend pays for some tickets, you pay them back. We've seen people with gifts. You know, there's ways that you can share the cost of gifts. You can pool money together. Quite a social thing around, you know, the IOUs. Somebody owes you cash, you ping them the money back. And again, it's a nice expression. I'll ping it back to you. Pocket money, you know, it's great for parents to be able to ping their money to their children. You do find yourself becoming like a cash machine for your kids. So it's kind of like, can I have £20? And it's like, well, if you ping it back to me. So you find yourself holding the money, waiting for the payment to come in, and then you hand the money over. So if you do lend anybody money on that basis, then Ping It's a great way of ensuring that you get it back. And a number of, you know, real kind of initiatives. We've seen people paying the wages through Ping It, and it really is evolving. It's starting to grow, and a lot of new ideas, and we get a lot of companies getting in touch with us, telling us how they use Ping It. Some of them on websites say, you know, we accept payment by Ping It, and they post their phone number on there. And it's quite nice to see that our customers have been innovating as well as we have, and giving us ideas, and almost feel part of what we're doing, which again is a nice place for us to be. One of the nice touches we did, and again it was based on customer feedback, was using QR codes so that customers could have their own QR code, and we put a QR code reader into Ping It. So you could literally hold the phone, open up the QR code, read that customer's QR code, all the details came up, and you made the payment. And we're now working with a lot of large organizations, because one of the biggest costs for large corporates is checks. You know, checks just don't go away. You know, I've been in the banking industry for a long time, and we always talk about the end of the check, but it just doesn't happen. And companies in the UK, Vodafone, BT, organizations of that sort of ilk, the telcos, hire hundreds of people to process their checks. And they're working with us to say, look, we'd like to stick QR codes on our bills so the customers can pay the bill with Ping It, and then we don't have to process the checks. And actually, we'd like to use Ping It to pay the money back if ever we owe them money. So even our corporate customers are now starting to embrace Ping It. And that's really important to us, because we don't charge for it. We need to find a way of making money out of it, and our corporates seem to be quite a key part of that. A little bit of a breakdown. So the average age is around about 27. It seems to be not necessarily just the kind of the youngsters. We have a 96-year-old user, so you know, good to see that technology is embraced all the way through, and we have some people who use it on a regular basis, up to 6 times a day, which for a payment app is pretty good. So what have we learned from the experience of doing this? So by being disruptive, what are the things that we've learned? One of the main ones was just how much people love their mobile phone. You know, listening to Steve talking about people liking to play buttons and all that sort of thing when he was young, and I feel there is something about the fact people like to hold the phone in their hand, and it's their phone. If you go on the internet, the chances are you're probably going to go on the internet maybe at home, or quite a lot of people we know log in when they get to work, because that's when we see a volume of transactions and are online, or they might go to an internet cafe. You don't tend to lend your phone around or use other people's phones. It's a very personable device. And the feedback from our customers was very much, if you don't stick a decent app on this phone, then we're not very happy. Because we've spent £400 or £500 on the very latest smartphone. And if your app crashes, we're going to tell you about it. And if we don't like the look of your app, and the UI is not very, you know, interactive, and the UI is not very simple to follow, they'll get quite angry. And we spent more money on the UI and the kind of customer navigation and the workflow of the payment than probably any other system we've ever built. Because most of our systems sit behind a cashier or somebody on the end of a phone. But when you think about a mobile phone, we're putting software into the hands of our customers, and they're using it, and they're talking to the person next to them about it. And a really massive investment, and a really big learn for us. And they always say, you know, put the customer at the heart of everything you do. Love your customers, or someone else will. And I think, you know, my advice to anybody who's working in the mobile space, never underestimate the power of the usability of the app. We spent a huge amount of money on that. We built a native app to make it really nice and rich in usability. And when we looked at our App Store ratings, it was surprising how good our ratings were compared to other banks who'd maybe gone HTML route and hadn't really invested. They just rendered the internet onto the phone. So really good investment, getting that UI, that user experience. So here's a random slide. There is a logic to the fact that we've got Justin Bieber up there and Barclays together. We also learn how social media changes the way our customers interact with us. I could never really understand why. It was always Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga were always kind of vying for, I have the most Twitter followers. And up until recently, it was always Lady Gaga's picture on there. So I don't know what Justin Bieber's done, but somehow he's just kind of tipped the 18.5, 19 million, and he's now the most followed person around. But there is a sense to what they do. They have 18 million of their customers hanging on their every word, readily available to talk to them. If you add up all our current account customers and our card customers, etc., we've probably got a similar number of customers. We can't talk to our customers in the same way as Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga can. If we want to launch a product, we have to spend millions of pounds on TV advertising, months of preparation, and most of our customers will ignore it. They'll get the letter through the post, they'll rip it up, and that's it. These guys can just contact their customers and say, new track, new album, new concert, click here, download, buy, done. No cost. We spend as a bank over £200 million a year just writing to our customers. They don't have to do that. So for us, a huge learn. If we could tap into that whole culture of communicating to customers, then maybe we could start benefiting in the same way they do. And we're starting to see that with our other mobile apps. We've launched our mobile banking app, and half our customers log into that app every single day, which is a real surprise to us, and it's a pleasant surprise. We now need to, as an organization, think, how can we make the most of them contacting us every day and use that as a way of sharing information back? If all our customers followed us on Twitter, it would be absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, the downside of Twitter is it's actually a very fast news channel. So, you know, some of the big news events of recent times tend to be released quicker on Twitter than they do on the TV. And our customers are very, very open, very honest, and very direct when they feed back to us. So Twitter is probably another case for being disruptive. If one of our systems went off the air as an organization, our customers would ring us, and our very highly trained staff would explain why that system had gone off the air or why their payment didn't go through. And there was always an adage that if a complaint was handled well, the relationship with that customer was actually better than if they'd never called you at all. Now our customers don't ring us. They just go on Twitter and say, Barclays, you suck. And that's the clean version of it. They really are quite abusive. I mean, we have a live Twitter feed in our office, and you wouldn't go up to people in the street and say the things people say on Twitter, but they do. And we actually had two screens in our office. One was live Twitter feed, what our customers were saying about us, and the screen next to it was feedback from our staff on how they thought things were going. And the feedback from our staff was, can you turn the Twitter feed off because we don't like what our customers are saying? So it was a real revelation to us just to use Twitter in a way to understand what our customers were thinking about us. But the real challenge is the right of reply. You can't really go back to that customer and explain what's happened. So again, a learning from us and a learning to anybody who's launching products or anyone who's thinking of releasing anything into a live environment, embrace the power of Twitter. Use it as a learning and a feedback mechanism. It's absolutely instant. People don't wait 2 or 3 days. It's instant. If we release a new version of our app, within minutes, there's a trend on Twitter. Hopefully positive, but not always. But a very, very powerful mechanism and a way of communicating with your customers. It's something that, as an organization, we're investing a huge amount in now. The other thing is we've changed very much as an organization to work in mobile and to attract the sort of talent that we're trying to attract here and in the UK. We kind of acknowledge that, you know, we were a little bit corporate and we were a little bit stuffy maybe in our ways. And the challenge was, you know, why does everybody want to go and work for Google or Apple or Facebook and the Amazons of this world? They've got the talent. Google have 1 million job applications every year in the UK alone, and they never advertise a job. People just want to work for them. So we've changed our culture dramatically. You know, the suits went and the jeans came in, and the formal desk space went and the tables and chairs came in. And out went some of the vending machines and the Xboxes and the PlayStations came in. And it caused quite a lot of a stir in the pocket of the mobile team where we operated that way. It really kind of disrupted the other people in the office who were in the suits and the more formal ways of working. Because it's amazing how people need formality. People need to get up in the morning and put their corporate facade on and then step out and say, I'm now in work mode. And then they go to work, and then at the end of the day, they take the corporate facade off, and suddenly they're in their leisure mode. We were trying to blend the two, so people, if they wanted to come in early, could come in early. If they wanted to stay late, they could stay late. They could go on the PlayStation or the Xbox and not feel guilty about it. And it really has transformed the way we work as a team. What it meant was, rather than the kind of the typical IT, which is quite an aging population in the UK, because a lot of software developers, a lot of the work's gone abroad, it wasn't seen to be trendy anymore. Suddenly, 60% of our team are under 25. They're apprentices, they're graduates, they're high energy, and they've really kind of brought a buzz back. And a number of presentations when we've talked about what we've done and at hackathons and other events, it's quite a challenge for a lot of organizations, how you move into this way of working. How do you move into software releases every week from very tightly controlled software releases every 3 months? And it's great talking to some of the startups here because they've got that mindset. They don't mind if they put the software out there and it doesn't work. They deal with it quickly. And this concept of fail fast is really powerful. Being brave enough to have an idea and deliver it quickly and know that you can respond to what happens very quickly and get another release out within a few days is a really powerful way of innovating. It's the way Facebook achieved a huge amount of what they did. Wasn't necessarily the best product when it was launched, but they got it out there, they were quick, they listened, they fixed it, they listened, they fixed it, and eventually they got that viral effect. If you wait to make it perfect, somebody else will get out there first. And that was a new concept for us, and that was a big learn for us to have that bravery and that confidence that what we did might not actually work first time, but whatever, we'll learn from it, we'll fix it, and we'll get something out very quickly. I think the other thing is there's obviously people in this room from different organizations, different companies, and I know there's a lot of people in that sort of startup mood. And I think the other learn, and the thing we're trying to explore, and maybe it's the journey we're about to go on as an organization, is there really is room in this space for everybody. You know, innovation isn't for the large corporates, and most of us operate in quite large spaces. So the payments world of 1 trillion, there may not be many mobile wallets out there. There probably will be the large corporates or the banks or the telcos who will be investing in that space. But some of the features and some of the ideas that our customers want will come from the startups, and they'll come from the new ideas and the sort of inspiration that you get at events like this. And we've already walked around and seen 2 or 3 ideas where we've talked to people and said, you know, that would be absolutely fantastic as an idea to plug into one of our banking apps, or maybe Barclays Ping It, or one of the products we're thinking about coming forward. So it's really, I think, really comforting, and it's really exciting that the world that we operate in as a large corporate crosses over so neatly into the world of events like this, of innovation and new ideas. Because we're going to innovate, we're going to come up with our ideas, our customers are very demanding. But it really is great to see so many ideas here, whether it's virtual reality, whether it's a really nice user interface. There's so many opportunities for ideas from these sort of events to be taken to the large organizations. And you know, it can be quite lucrative. There are quite a few case stories of organizations who had good ideas, and we're even doing it as an organization, looking at some companies who've got a great idea and thinking, I tell you what, why don't we partner with you? Small startups, 7 or 8 people working with an organization of 140,000 employees. But it's a really powerful, it's a partnership. The size doesn't really matter. The idea is good, we'll partner with them. And I think, power to events like this, and hopefully we can do even more of that. So I'm conscious of time, and I'll happily take questions. So my challenge really was, is it good to be disruptive? And I like to think, yes, it is. It's good fun being disruptive as well. It's great seeing other people's faces, whether it's in the industry, whether it's in your team, wherever it is, if you're brave enough to do the things that Apple did, if you're brave enough to do the things that Facebook and Twitter and Amazon have done. They're brave, they're confident. And I guess my only passing comment when it comes to Barclays Ping It is, it's good to be disruptive, and if not, this could be you. Really, one of our ad agencies, again, trying to do things differently, said, why don't we do a viral video? So that is flying around on YouTube at the moment. Most of the staff who saw that thought, actually, we should have put that on TV instead of the very polished corporate advert that I showed you at the start. Maybe as an organisation, we're not quite that disruptive just yet. So over to you. Any questions?
What is the commission or fee of payment?
Sorry?
What is the commission or fee of payment?
Nothing. It's all free. So interesting, when the day we went live, the chief executive of PayPal was invited to one of the news evening programs, and our chief operating officer sat with him. And it was a really good interview from Barclays' point of view, because the presenter picked up on the fact that PayPal offered a service for a fee, and Barclays were offering it for free. There is no charge. So a bit like Facebook, you know, when they launched it, they didn't know how they were going to make money out of it, but they really believed it was a good product. You know, we've been inspired by that kind of thinking. We believe this is a good product. Our corporates like it. So somewhere along the line, we'll work out a way of making it pay. So it is a free payment service. Yeah, it's good. It is a good question. We're currently UK for Barclays Ping It, and other banks can use it. In July, we're launching Ping It in our African branches. So we have a large presence in South Africa. We're looking at Kenya, and we're looking at Spain, Italy, and Portugal as the next ones. Now that's because we've got banking presence in those countries. But one of the things for the future, you know, who knows, maybe Ping It, you know, as a product might be available through other banks in other countries. And I would love to come here in a few years and see, you know, people who bank with the local banks using Barclays Ping It. That would be a great achievement.
Is there any limit of payment?
Up to £750. So you can make payments up to £750. When we launched it, it was 300, and that was a risk-based decision. But we've now increased that to 750. I think we're monitoring it. The average payment is around about £70. So we do see there is an appetite for customers to actually pay quite high amounts of money. So if you think of things like NFC, they tend to be, you know, 5, 10, the kind of cup of coffee type payment. But what we're looking at here is the ability for you to pay a plumber, electrician, a builder, as well as your friend for dinner. So we're monitoring it. There is a push. Some of our senior exec are quite keen that we push it higher, but we're just going to, you know, watch it at 750 and see.
Is there any risks of using this? I mean, stolen money or something like that?
One of the biggest investments that we made in the application was the security. And that was for two reasons. If you think about it, technology-wise, you're putting an application onto someone's phone. So there's two things that can happen. One, somebody could break into their phone and use that fraudulently and make payments on their behalf without them knowing. The other thing they could do is steal all of our IP and copy our app. So we had to protect it for two reasons. So we spent a huge amount of money building a security framework to protect our customers and ourselves. And we met this wonderful crowd of people who I'd never been involved with before, called pen testers. So these are basically they're hackers who've gone legit. So we had this wonderful crowd of people who were on the CIA watch list, coming in, sitting in our office, trying to hack into our app every day. And they would succeed, and then we'd fix it, and they'd back away. So big, big investment. So again, you know, a big learn for us that because of the payment nature and the confidence, and some of the UK banks have launched cash send products that allow you to cash money, send it to an ATM, draw it out. They have been compromised, and it's headline news. So we know as a bank, if this system's compromised, it's more of a brand reputation than a cost issue for us. So huge investment in that side of the technology.
I'm a Barclays customer for 30 years. It's probably the best thing I've seen come out of Barclays. But how are you going to compete with the cross-border payments? I can do it for £2.50 here. What plans are Barclays with, and at what cost?
At the moment, we're doing cross-border payments to our African countries, and we're doing them instantly. And we are looking at the cost, because like you, we were very interested in the model they were adopting. Going forward, you know, without giving too many details away, looking at our mobile platform, it will become easier and easier for us through Ping It for customers to make those payments through mobile phone at very low transaction costs. So I think we'll be extremely competitive in the cross-border. We're already doing it to Africa, where it's very popular. We're going to introduce that to our European banks as well. So I think it's a learning curve, definitely going to be competitive in that space, but that was an interesting model that we might be looking at. Africa's this year, Spain, Italy, Portugal. The plans are to do as much of that as we can this year. We're being very aggressively challenged as a development team by our senior execs to do more of this because they like it and the customers like it. So our challenge, hence, we've got a mobile team in Lithuania. That team is going to grow very quickly because, we want their help to try and roll out this product in the UK and around the world. Conscious, a couple of guys at the back I'd probably miss.
I would like to ask about, let's say, what's your experience, what you have lost, and what you have gained when you launched the team. Because in our country, banks doing business like this, if they don't have the audit problems, they increase transaction costs, and they have problems. In your case, you won, you have more profit, or it was some losses?
At the moment, we have had, touch wood, we've had no issues. So we've used the Ping It framework to launch our mobile banking app. And again, both of the products are proving to be very popular with our customers. We're actually going to launch lending on the back of our mobile now. So whereas initially we just thought it would be make a payment, look at your account details, transfer your money around, our customers actually want to be able to borrow money through their mobile as well. So one of the new features we'll be adding is from your mobile, if you're out shopping and you see something, you'll be able to take out a loan instantly on your phone. So our view is very much we think customers will do more and more banking through their phones, definitely than they do on the internet. Internet, average once a month, our customers log in. Mobile banking, half our customers log in every single day. So there is a real appetite for customers to do their banking through their mobile phone, and that's something we're going to add features to and really work with those customers to give them more services that way. Yeah.
What were the biggest challenges you have faced while doing your first steps into the mobile?
Speed. You heard the story of Steve Wozniak where he was given 4 days to build a PC. When we built Ping It, we actually did 14 different prototypes trying to get the user experience right. And then our chief operating officer, when he saw the final one, he said, I like that. You've got 90 days to build it. Now, I know that seems a long time compared to 4, but this was a payment system. We are a regulated bank. We have shareholders watching us. We have stakeholders. We have the financial services industry. We even have the government watching what we do. So to launch a payment system in 90 days was a massive challenge. We changed the way we work. We took out a bunker, which had about as much light in it as this room. We sat everybody in that room together. We locked them in. We bought pizzas down for them. We gave them water every now and then. And then 90 days, there's a couple of guys in the room. It was 6:30 in the morning of the 90th day, and we sent a £1 payment to our chief operating officer, and the payment went through. And it was a great feeling. It's surprising, if you get the mentality right, you don't feel like you're killing yourself at work. You're actually having fun building a product. And I think that 90-day challenge actually turned into something positive as a team. But I'm now trying to maintain that rhythm. So, as a startup, you come up with a concept. It's very innovative. You do have to industrialize it at some point. And that is the period we're going through now. But trying to do things quickly in big organizations isn't always that easy. Yep.
Can I ask you some technical question about how
Right.
it connects the mobile phone number to the bank account, or if I would have some 3 bank accounts in 3 different banks, to what bank account it would connect to a Ping?
So you register basically. What part of the process when you download the application is you register your phone to your bank account. So for Ping It, there is a one-to-one relationship because we need to know where to put the money into your account. There are other bank products we've got that allow you to view multiple accounts, but you in a secure process, you register your bank account to your phone, and it's part of our security that we validate that bank account to stop any sort of fraud. You can have more than one phone per account, but you can't have more than one account on a phone. And again, this is for security and fraud reasons, but you can have more than one device associated with that account. Initially, you couldn't. So back to the risk question, we started off one phone, one account because we thought that was secure. A lot of customers said, but actually I've got multiple devices, my BlackBerry for work, my iPhone for leisure, I've got an iPad as well, and we opened that up, and that's been very well received.
Does it relate to operators, I mean mobile operators? Does it have some connection? If I have a contract with one operator and I move to other operator?
Yeah, you switch your registration across. If you change your phone for security, you deregister one phone and you re-register the new phone. And there's a very simple process of copying. Yeah, same bank account. And we built, again, customer feedback was make it simple so you can copy your registration from one device to another. Because people do, swap their mobile phones, particularly around Christmas. Huge, uptake in the new devices at Christmas. So that's a relatively simple process. Okay. Well, thank you all.